Chapter 6. A Present for Frisky. Mandy got a blanket and wrapped it around the little dog. She sat by the fire, hugging him on her lap. James bent to stroke his head. The dog had stopped shaking and had nestled as close to Mandy as he could. "Here," Mandy said to James, "you hold him while I heat up some milk. It'll warm his tummy and make him feel much better." A few minutes later, Mandy poured the milk carefully into a small bowl. James put the dog on the floor. He wobbled a bit, then sniffed the milk. Soon he began to lap it up. Mandy kneeled beside him. "I wonder why his owners didn't shut him in," she said. "They should have known how scared he'd be." "Look at his collar," James said. "It should tell us where he lives." Mandy turned over the silver tag. "His name's Bobby," she said. "And there's just a phone number. Welford, 876-597. She stood up. "I'd better call them. They'll probably be worried about him." Just then the door opened and Dr. Adam came hurrying in. He had come as soon as he heard what had happened. "Grandma told me you were here." He bent down. "Is he all right?" The little dog had finished the milk. He sat held it up close to the fire. He was licking his lips and looking at Dr. Adam with wide, scared eyes. Dr. Adam held his head and looked him into the eyes. He ran his hand down his back and legs. "He seems okay now." Mandy gave the little puppy a hug. "His name's Bobby," Mandy said. "I was just going to call his owners." She went out into the hall to use the phone. A minute or two later, she came back. "He comes from those houses behind the church," she said. "I said we'd take him home." "Did they know he was out?" James asked. "Yes, they were really worried. He belongs to their little girl, and she's been crying all evening. They said they had been looking everywhere for him. He's always running away." "Well, this might have taught him a lesson," Dr. Adams said, "although it's really up to the owners to keep their dogs under control." Dr. Adam went to get a spare dog leash he had kept in the clinic. When he came back, Mandy and James were ready to go. "Grandma and Grandpa have gone home," Dr. Adam told her. "I'll give them a call to tell them you're on your way back." "Thanks," Mandy said. "We missed the rest of the fireworks," James said as they hurried along the main street toward the church. "Oh well," Mandy said. "I would rather have been helping Bobby anyway." "Me too," James agreed. They found Bobby's house and knocked on the door. A little girl answered it. Her eyes were red, and she looked very unhappy. Her face lit up, though, when she saw Mandy and James standing on the doorstep with Bobby. When he saw her, Bobby's tail began wagging really fast. He gave a little whine and began jumping at her. The little girl burst into tears and bent down to pick him up. "Oh, Bobby, you naughty boy," she sobbed, burying her face in the soft fur of his neck. Bobby began whining and licking her face. "Oh, Bobby," she said again. Mandy felt like crying too. Bobby's owner had obviously been frantic. "My dad says he's all right," Mandy said, "but he's had a very lucky escape," she added gently. "You'll have to keep a close eye on him from now on." "We will, I promise." The girl wiped her eyes. "Thank you very much." They could hear her still talking to Bobby as she turned back into the house and closed the door. When Mandy had said goodbye to James and gotten back to Lilac Cottage, Grandma had a steaming cup of hot chocolate ready for her. "How is the poor little dog?" she asked as Mandy came in. "Okay," Mandy said. She told her grandma about the little girl. "I bet you scolded her," Grandpa said when he came in. He knew how angry Mandy got if she thought animals were not being looked after properly. "No, I didn't," Mandy said. "She was too upset." Grandpa gave Mandy a hug. "Bobby was a very lucky dog if you ask me," he said. Mandy finished her drink and ran upstairs to see Frisky. He was running around and around the cage, up his ladder, through his cardboard tunnel, and in and out of his exercise wheel. The wheel was squeaking badly again. Cooking oil didn't seem to last very long. Mandy decided that Frisky was the most adorable pet she had ever almost had, even though she sometimes got tired just watching him. She sat by his cage and told Frisky about the night's adventures. He seemed to listen to every word she was saying. Then she took him out and let him have a little run around. She picked him up, and he sat on her hand. Then he darted up her sleeve, sat on her collar for a moment, and disappeared down her neck. Mandy chuckled. She was used to feeling of Frisky running about her clothes by now. When he popped out of her sleeve again, she caught him and put him carefully back into his cage. She sighed. She was really going to miss Frisky when it came time for him to go home. The following morning, Dr. Emily picked up Mandy and James to take them shopping. Before they left, Mandy went to see Frisky. He was very sleepy and almost ready for his daytime snooze. "He's really sweet," Dr. Emily said, "and very clean and healthy. You're doing a great job, you two." On the way to Walton, Mandy gazed out of the window at the passing fields and trees. The mist of the early morning had given way to bright sunshine. Tomorrow she would be busy helping with a rummage sale, and the next day Frisky would be going home, and she would be going back to Animal Ark. The week went by so quickly. "When are we going to get Frisky?" James asked. Mandy was thoughtful. I'm not sure. We'll have to look and see what they've got in the pet shop." "He's already got a wheel, a tube, and a gnawing block," James said. Dr. Emily laughed. "Well, what do you buy the hamster who's got everything?" "A friend?" James suggested. Mandy shook her head. "No, hamsters have to live on their own. They fight if you put two together." Dr. Emily came up with an idea. "You could make him an adventure playground," she suggested. "Adventure playground?" Mandy said. "Yes, you could put a small branch into a cage and put little ladders up on one side and down the other. Grandpa would find you something, and you could get the ladders in Walton." "What a great idea, Mom! We can make it when we get back." There was a pet shop in Walton where they had found just the ladders they wanted. They were made of metal and had hooks at the ends. "We can hook them over the branch," Mandy said. "He's going to love it, I know." "Then we could hang something to one end of the branch," James suggested. "What sort of thing?" Mandy asked. "How about a couple of wooden thread spools?" Dr. Emily suggested. "They make great hamster toys." Mandy and James bought one ladder each. Then they bought a new gnawing block, as Frisky had almost bitten his way through his old one. It was important for hamsters to keep their teeth short. Last of all, they bought a bag of special luxury hamster mix. On the way home, they sat in the back of the car making plans. "We can set the adventure playground up in Frisky's cage while he sleeps," said Mandy. "Then it will be a surprise when he wakes up," James said excitedly. "I just can't wait to see what he does." "Neither can I," Mandy laughed. When they got back to Lilac Cottage, Grandpa was outside cleaning the windows. Mandy told him about Frisky's surprise and asked if he would help them. "Oh, I should think so." Grandpa put down his cloth. "Follow me." He walked off down the path. "I've had a really busy morning," he told them as they went down to the bottom of the garden. "First, the car wouldn't start when Grandma wanted to go shopping. Then, just as I got that sorted out, John Jenkins came to pick up the things for the sale. He stopped under one of the apple trees that grew by the fence. "An apple tree twig," he said. He took out his penknife and cut one off. "Just the thing for a hamster's adventure playground. What do you think?" Mandy took it from him. "Great! Thanks, Grandpa." She suddenly thought of something else. "Do you think Grandma would mind if we looked in her sewing box?" "What for?" Grandpa asked. "A couple of empty wooden spool threads," James said. "We're going to hang them from the branch." "I'm sure she won't mind," Grandpa said. "Make sure you put everything back, though." "We will." Mandy and James dashed indoors. Mandy found 2 thread spools, while James found some string in a kitchen drawer. Together they tied them on to the apple tree twig. Mandy sat back. "Frisky's going to have a lot of fun with those," she said. "Come on, let's set it up while he's still asleep." They took everything upstairs. Mandy put her finger to her lips. "Let's be very quiet," she whispered. She opened the door softly. Then she froze. with shock. The table by the radiator was empty. It wasn't only the stuff for the rummage sale that was gone. Frisky was gone too.